Hi guys, and welcome to Angling For You, and today you join me on Beecher's Pond on Lindholm, the superb, should I say, Lindholm Lakes. If you've never been to this venue, then you definitely need to come and give it a try. And I'm trying out today one of my favourite cold water methods, and that is dead reds and micros. Now, there's loads of different ways you can fish this, but today we're starting off on a banjo feeder. The species we're after is F1s, and that looks like the first fish is that. And I just love fishing at this time of year. It just in spring. To be fair, we've actually had some really hot weather. Today is definitely cooler. We've sort of had 20 degrees really for the last couple of days. Over the bank holiday. It's bank holiday Monday now, and today we're definitely not on that. It's F1's going bananas. We're definitely not on that. Today we're sort of closer to the 13 degrees temperature. There's a definite light little breeze, which is maybe needing the old jumper on. But we're into this first fish, and we're going to recast straight away. It's a lovely little F1 to start the session. We've had a couple of fish already before camera, and a lovely one that were about 3, knocking on 4 pound before this one. It's an absolute unit of an F1, and it's a simple method to do. We'll go into that a little bit more in detail when we talk about the bait and the rigs, but there's not much you need to do to have a good day on it. Like anything with fishing, and certainly with feeder fishing, it's around accuracy, and that's accuracy with where you're casting, that's accurate in how you put in your presentation of your bait together, and those make a big difference. What we're going to do initially is I always go with triple red is my go-to, and we're going to have that on a 16s hook. You could go on 18s, but it hides it enough, and I like just a little bit of extra point showing when we do it. So I put a layer of micros in first, then I put my bait on, and then I double skin it. Well, like I say, we'll do this when we're going close, and we can have a look in a little bit more detail. We're just fishing out to the island on his left. And today we're actually sharing the area. Really, it's not really too much of my area. I'm fishing with one of my friends, Matt, and he's really only got a chuck with the trees just past the corner, so I'm sort of fishing to the right of that. I have got another option. A little later I may set my second rod up and chuck to the other side. At the moment there's nobody fishing there, and that is also a sort of avenue we could maybe go down. But another one when they're really having it and it gets in the warmer months, and maybe you've got a wet day or they're not really settled, I like to fish it short, and it's just having your clutch on light and underarming it maybe 10 metres if that in front of you. And this can be a real devastating method if you're on, especially an F1 venue. They just absolutely hammer it. And the feeder choice changes, to be honest, for me, for both of these. If I'm fishing it close in, I'll use a method feeder, and I'll show you what that looks like when we go into talking about the tackle. But the way that sits short and breaks down seems to work better. when I'm casting out to a feature or somewhere a little further away, I prefer a banjo style feeder. I just like the extra security of the edge of the feeder sort of holding it in while it casts and goes into the water a little bit firmer, and I just find that what fits me comfortably. And there we go again, the tip's around, they're swimming towards me. Don't think it's anything big, this one, but a lovely bite. Might be a silverfish, this one. Oh no, he's woke up a little bit now. He must have swum all the way to the peg. He's not a big fish, that is for sure. No, it's only a baby, this one. Oh, it's a tench! It's a tench! Well, guys, that makes the day. I'm finished. I can pack up. My favourite fish in the world. And you don't catch them very often. And Matty's already had one, a small one. And I think I've pipped him here. This one's about a pound. And it is definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, my favourite fish. I don't care what size they are. I don't care what it's like. And if you've ever picked a tench up, you'll understand why it's jumping all over, because they are slippy beasts. But that is miniature perfection, and I know there's quite a few in there, in here, and I'll be happy catching them out. So I love tench, my favourite fish in the world. I just seem to stem from being a kid. Just that, I don't know if it's the feel of them. I don't know. I used to fish a venue close to me called Aitken Pond, and it years gone by, we're talking when I'm in sort of 14, 15, 16, we used to catch tench up to £6, £7 in there, and they were just beautiful fish to catch, and I just fell in love with them from a young age. And I'm sure there's a lot of people on here that have that same obsession with them. In fact, comment below, what is your favourite fish? It'd be interesting to see what you all say. I know there's obviously a lot of carp lovers out there, and a lot of F1 lovers. Crusions, that's usually a popular one. Barbel, obviously, but it's always good to catch fish, whatever it is. But definitely, mine would be a tench, and then a barbel, and probably a chub, I would say. I do like a big roach though. Don't catch those very often. Right, let's get back out there and see if there's some more. Almost tandem landing there. Matt to the left, me to the right. And when we go in close and we have a chat about the rig, I'm going to have a little chat about the actual setup that we've got in front of us. Not necessarily the rod and reel, more of how it's positioned, the accessibility, the safety element, and what we've actually got to create that, and what does that bring. Why do we use this thing? And certainly, you know, you can have it just on, you can sit with with a chair and have a rest stuck in. Absolutely, you can. There's certain things around how we've positioned the rod, what we've got it on, that does make a big difference, and we'll go into that when we get a little bit closer, and we can do that with a camera and zoom in on it. But there's just certain reasons that can aid you in your fishing, and for certain times of the day and certain conditions of weather, that will change as well. But it's just lovely to be out on the bank, and you know, not as many people as I thought watched the Cudmore video. So if you haven't watched the Cudmore video, then definitely give that a check, because that was a mega video, really good and really great day. And I know there's a lot of the people on the group that commented on all the photos we put on, which were just a super day with one of the admins, Nicky Pritchard, and we really enjoyed just chewing the fat and having a great day, just catching fish, and by the judge of the start of today, that looks like we may have one of those kind of days today as well. And I've got Matt, like I say, Matt with me, who's not Matt Richardson, who's away on holiday at the moment. We've got Matt Jackson, one of my childhood friends, but and also got Glyn, who's one of my childhood friends' dad, who you may or may not have seen on some of the videos in the past. Seems to fish with me, comes out around this springtime and fishes all through the summer with me, before taking an early bath for the winter, which I don't blame him on, if I'm honest. Sometimes joins us on the old pike session if it gets a mild set of weather. Right guys, so this feels like another tench, I think. This may be another tench. They don't pull as hard as an F1, but I'm still happy catching them. Oh, interesting. It's got to be a tench, jaggy. It's a tench on a perch. Oh, it's another tench. Come here, lad. Bosh. We do love a tench. I'd like him if he were about 6 times bigger, but still, nevertheless, he is a little bit bigger than the other one though, actually. Perfectly hooked in the corner of the mouth. Absolutely guzzled them maggots. Just hook on the feeder onto the side here. There we go, I'll lift him up. Bar of soap, but absolutely, absolutely perfect. Come here, lad. Let's hook you up. Everybody wants to see you. There we go. Little paintbrush tail. Absolute perfection. Let's get in close and have a little look at the setup and talk about what we've got in front of us. Right guys, so now I've zoomed in on the rod setup. Now it may go at any time. We're fishing live because I need to show you the tip. So we have quite a high peg today. I've got my base bar as low as I can possibly get it. Some of you might have an adjustable one that can go even low. So that's the first thing, that when you're doing any sort of feeder fishing, when you're in a commercial or not on a river, you want that tip as low as you can get to the water. It aids with wind, it stops it blowing around, and the angle is amazing for pickup. Now, so that's number one. If you were fishing a river, you would have that up, and that's because you want the line off the water, because you don't want the toe pulling the rod round all the time. So that's why you would have it higher up on a river. So you can see there's 2 items that are really integral, apart from the main bar that they fit to. And this is a Preston roost rest. You can use any type of sort of roost rest you want, but I prefer the ones that are like this with the teeth. It just allows me to get a good hold with the rod, and you can see that the eye is sat right against it. That means that if anything pulls the rod towards forward, it's going to hold it against there, so I'm not going to lose my rod straight away. It can swim right and lift it out of the rest. That's why you have a really decent butt rest, and this is a Preston gripper rest. There's also other ones, Guru do them, Matrix do them, and that means that my rod is locked into there on the fatter part of the rod. I've got a little Matrix feeder arm, so it just shoves in. It's a button press, so I can just leave the attachment on my box and just pull this piece out, and then just push it in. I can move it anywhere around, but the setup is angled forward, and that's important. So you're getting the perfect angle on the tip, and the wind isn't pulling your rod around, and the angle forward so you can pick up and lift into the fish. You don't always need to strike a fish when you're fishing a feeder, not necessarily, unless you may be at distance and you may be fishing for silverfish, small hooks and things like that. But most things on a commercial will take it round, and it's a case of picking the rod up and you're into the fish. So it is quite a simple setup in that sense. But as you can see, everything is in a line. Now, I'm not telling you to go out and spend loads of money on what we've got here. It's not particularly massive money. The roost is the rest itself's around £40. The tops are around £12 to £16, depending on what make and manufacturer you get. And this one's around a tenner. The actual arm itself's maybe about 15 quid. So it's probably 60, 70 quid all in. Now, you can get ones that come with all the attachments. You can get cheaper ones, of course you can. So this is just what works for me. But it's more about the angle of how the setup is. Now, some people prefer a longer rest where they've got more support on the rod lower down, especially if you're fishing an 11 foot. A longer extension would be preferable, certainly if you're fishing 11 to 12 foot rods. A lot of the time I fish 10 foots. I can get away with this one on an 11. If anything above that, really, you could do with a longer set, and that just gives us stability. And we're into the fish now, and this one feels a nice little fish. This one definitely feels like an F1. You see, when we're playing the fish, you're not going to maybe see it from this angle, but we're keeping everything low until we need to net it. It's another little F1. And he's in the net. A little bit smaller than the last one. Another little tip, once you've got him in the net, you can see the rod's bent. What you need to be doing is every reel's got a little click, or most reels have got a little click for back line. Just give it a click and allow that line to come off, and then that allows you to unhook the fish safely. You can put a little bit more click on if you want, give yourself a little bit of line. That's clicked off, that's sat on that rest now, nice and safe, while you unhook the fish. Perfectly lip hooked. Nice little F1. Let's get him back and we'll have a look at the bait and how we load the feeder. Right guys, so we're going to look at loading the feeder first before we go to a zoomed out shot and explain the whole situation. Firstly, the hook link 016 power micron. I'd step that up in the summer months where they're really having it, but at the moment it's a stiff line monofilament, and it really is decent. I do use it for a lot of my hook links now. The hook I'm using is a bagging carp size 16, and it's a new MIDI hook as a KM-1 16s hook, because I want to put those 3 dead reds on, and it's not too big for what I need to do. So as you can see, the maggots are completely dead as a doornail. You can do this in various ways. You can buy them alive, tighten them up in a bag and knock all the air out of them and leave them for a couple of days in your fridge and they'll suffocate, or you can freeze the bag and then unfreeze them and they'll suffocate also. Or lastingly, you can roll them on your knee. Just lightly roll them and live maggot and it will die. So hooking them, we're just nicking them on. Like I say, 3 is perfect number. It's the number I always use. It sits beautiful on the hook, and there's plenty of a point showing, but not too much. I cover 1. I don't press it. I just a light covering. Then on go the maggots, on go the pellets, a little squash down, and then another cover of pellets, and that's it, ready to go. And you can see this is the older style Jura Banjo. I think I've got a new style as well in here. They're the newer styles, so obviously a little bit heavier. Is that one? It's too heavy to use for here, but I do like these, and especially the little grid is where they all come out. Obviously it's an ICS, so it's interchangeable, and really simple, really neat and easy to cast in. very difficult to tangle up. So let me jump out to a little bit of a wider angle. We'll have a little talk about the setup, and then we'll cast out and see if we can have some more fish. Right guys, so let's just go through the rest of the kit. So we've got the feeder obviously set up there, ready to go. The rod itself is a Daiwa Air Z AGS. Lovely bit of kit, and that's with a 3012 TDR, Daiwa TDR, and that's got 6 pound Maxima line, which is my line of choice, which I absolutely love, and just a really well balanced setup. And what you need for these kind of chucks is around a 10-foot rod. You could probably get away with a 9-footer, even an 8-footer if you absolutely wanted to, but to give you the control, a 10-foot is absolutely perfect for this kind of distance. And I personally don't really go over 5-6 pound line unless I'm fishing heavy gear, or I'm fishing a pellet waggler. Maybe I go up to 8 pound, but with a balanced setup, 6 pound and a nicely set drag, 6 pound is absolutely perfect. So a couple of little tips when we're starting. In fact, I'll just bring that back to me so I can show you. A couple of little tips before we cast. What you want to look at is you're holding your rod in front of you, and you're just stretching to see if that line is coming through the top eye. So if it's wrapped around, obviously you'll get a twang, and that'll either lose your eye or it'll lose and crack off whatever you've got attached to it, which would be the feeder in this case, and we don't want that. So that's the first thing that we do. When we reel, we want around sort of just over 2 foot worth of line. We don't want it too close to the feeder, because then you're going to punch it out. It's very snappy, using all the tip rather than the rod, and if you have it too long, then again it's a little bit cumbersome and you're not getting the control that you need. So around 2 to 2.5 foot is about right. And you don't have to, you can just put it behind yourself and cast. I like to swing slightly forward and take the momentum back before angling it towards where I'm going to shoot. Now I am aiming towards the willow tree, to the foot of the tree, between that and the end willow branch, so it is a pokey cast, but because of the way we're fishing with Matt to my left, I need to make sure that I'm doing that. So that is absolutely bob on, just to the left of that willow tree. Now we're not fishing bang on the island in regards to up under the island. The islands on most commercials will be undercut, just the way that the fish feed. But as you can see, it's quite a different island. It's quite wild, brambly. Some of the islands, they have a cutback and trim. This one's quite a natural island where they've got features coming out and bushes coming out, so we don't want any branches that have fallen off, any leaves that have fallen off, or any underneath foliage to attach to, if we can help it. So there's enough of what's there to cause shadow and give you the fish a safe environment for them to nip in and out, and it'll be slightly plateaued, so we'll just be fishing as that slope comes down. And with this time of year, they're on that little bar, that little slope, not shallow water but not deep water, and it's allowing us to pick off the fish that is cruising around the island and getting a few on the bank. Now that to me is the way I start off. If you've got a close island, most times it's going to be shallow close to it, where in the summer months absolutely get as close as you can, and certainly if you've got a trimmed up bank or board to fish to, then you can get tight up there. But like I say, most islands are undercut. Now when they drained Bonsai, there's lots of YouTubers covered that, and they were shocked at how undercut the islands were, a couple of feet in some cases, and it just shows why when the people that go the closest in that situation do the best is primarily they'll just sit under that, and they're not sat against it, they're sat underneath it, and then they'll just come up and nibble on your bait. So when they're cut back like that, sometimes, especially on old venues, it pays to get close, but in this case it slightly slopes down, and we're just fishing off that slope. It's allowing fish to intercept and come in and out, and we've been picking up a few fish. Fingers crossed we'll be into another one soon. Like I said before, just turned on camera, just set up the cast and the clip, and you know, just had a few casts just to see distances and things like that, and we had a couple of fish, pretty sharpish, a couple of nice F1s, and one going around £4 as well, which was a decent fish. So I'm very optimistic that we're going to have a quite a good day, and we've had obviously a few on camera now. But micros, especially this time of year, they are such a good bait, and if you want to add things to them, you know, you have confidence in your flavourings and your meat and your pellet soaks and things like that. F1 sweet or cold, F1 sweet cold water, both of those are good to attract F1s especially, but you know, that Scopex flavour is probably one of my favourite flavours to add to most things around cold water. I think that Scopex is just, the colour and the flavour just brings fish, and I do like, I'm a big fan of krilly, meaty flavours in the summer months. I just feel again that gives me a little bit more advantage. That's why I really like the megabytes for the paste, come with those additional additives in there, and you can put as little as or as much as you want, and just gives, I think, that little extra flavour boost. A little bit of a drop back there. I'm not entirely sure there'll be a fish on here. Yeah, I think there's a skimmer maybe, something smaller. A little drop back there. Oh, it's another little tench. Yes, please, Mr. Tench. Come on. Another little one of those tench. That didn't take all after we cast in to lift into that one. But yeah, a little drop back, so that's another thing you got to hit those drop bites. That's why I say you don't have to have a massive bend in the rod, but you do need enough that you can register those drop back bites where the fish picks it up and moves towards the rod tip and takes the weight off rather than moving it away, which is important. So let's move back onto a slightly wider angle and see if we can get a fish to finish. Right guys, you join me back, just ready to cast back in. Got the feeder all filled up, ready to go. Bringing that back on the wind. So the wind's picked up a little bit now, right to left to right, should I say. And what I've done there is just use the wind to bring the feeder back. So knowing that I'm casting to that area, just brought it back in off that wind. There we go, into a fish. This one feels a bit more like an F1. Feels a little bit like an F1, this one. As you see, throughout all that, keeping the rod nice and low. Just using that pump action until we get it close in. Only a little one. And there he is, look, pops straight up there. Click off that back wind, remember. Look at shuffle him using his leg. Got all that line out of the way. Safely on the rest. And we can see where he's got the hook. I like to sometimes slide them up the net so I can unhook them and they can stay safe and I've not needed to put the hands on the fish there. It's nice and simple, and we can release the fish with no problems, no touching needed. Sometimes it's nice to hold them up for camera, but sometimes you don't always have to. And again, we just repeat that process. Just make sure we get any slime or gunk off a line. There is a little bit of a fish slime, you sometimes get that. I like to take that off my hook link. You want a nice clean hook link. And another little thing I like to do when I'm getting the next set of bait on, especially with feeders, is just make sure you check the bead, everything's not pulled out. There's no chance of the hook link coming out or anything like that. To be honest, the Preston ones are very good, the Matrix ones are very good, Guru ones are very good. It tends to be, if you cheap out a little bit and maybe get a little pack of them from eBay or Amazon or something like that, and they come from China, they tend to be a little slacker and sometimes pull off. Bit of fish action going down to my right, jumping up and down. Lovely. Perfectly out there. A little gap off the bush. And if you've noticed, if you're new to feeder fishing, you might be wondering why the rod is sticking the rod under the water when I've cast it out. And what that is to do is to sink the line between, and we're off already, to sink the line between the feeder and the tip of the rod. And that again, it aids with accuracy of the cast, with the bite, should I say, and it stops the line blowing across the top. It keeps you in direct contact with the fish, and like that one, that fish took that as it hit the bottom, and because I sunk that line, we can see that bite straight away. Only a small fish again, another little F1, but it was straight on it. Beautiful colours. I almost thought it was a crucian for a second then. It was that. Oh, look at that. Spec the hook out, and that, you'll find that a lot with F1s. They do sometimes throw the hook at you. Just wind that in and have a look at this one. It's a lovely colour on this one. A little miniature. Beautiful. Bronze, yellow. Look at that. What a lovely looking F1. Let's get him back in, make another cast, and see if we can have another to finish the video. I really enjoy enjoying the filming lately. It's just a joy to share some things with you. Like a lot of people that watch, you know, a lot of very adequate fishermen and understand and you know everything that I'm doing, or have their own way of doing it, and that's absolutely fine. It's just to show methods and, you know, just enjoying fishing, getting people in there. If you're not taking anything from it, then that's fine, but you get to see the venue, and that's what it's about. A little lick of wind on there. Just spend that time getting yourself the right length of line. Oh, we've pushed that one to the left, and we all have bad casts, and that was definitely a bad cast on my part, that one. And I actually stopped that cast before it went too far left. Just checking the bait and everything's intact, and repeat that process. And you know, it's important to keep those kind of casts in the video, because we all make those certain casts, and it's, you know, we're not professionals. It's important. Get yourself back on track, get that one out of your head a little bit. And there we go, we make a good one. Sink that line. And what actually happened is that it slipped off my finger really when I was casting. You know, obviously trapping the line, and it slipped slightly off my finger, and we lost it to the left. but that happens, and that's, you know, that's why we leave it in the video. We don't need to cut them out, and you know, it's about how you recover. And if you do think it's going the wrong way, and I knew that to the left was going to hit the bush, is to trap that line as quick as you can and get some turns back on it, so you don't lose it into a bush or something like that. And the good thing is about obviously burying the hooks in these feeders is that most of the time they're going to come straight out of the snag if it does hit it, rather than hooking on. Like, very occasionally the unfortunate happens, but you know, that's fishing. You are fishing to quite a sketchy area, and if you do push it too far left or too far right, you could be in bush territory. And again, guys, that was a quick back bite and then forward bite. I think this would be another tench, a little tench, I'm pretty sure. It feels jaggy like a little tench. Be a lovely one to end on. It is a tench, come on. Oh, it's not. I thought that was a tench. But it's not, it's a roach. No, it's not a roach, it's an hide actually. Either way, he's a lovely little silver to finish on. Beautiful condition. Let's get him in. Always got to use nets at Lindown regardless of the size. Right guys, so hopefully that's helped you out and showed you a little bit around something that I do really well with in colder or into spring months, and it's just something I have a lot of confidence in, and that's what they say, don't they? At least 60-70% worth is confidence, and the rest could be luck and skill mixed together, but in confidence in what you're doing, what the products are using, and how you're setting yourself up. So fingers crossed that's give you a little bit of information to take you on that journey. If you want to join us on a Facebook group, Angling For You, then please do. There's around nearly 9,000 members on there. Fantastic bunch of people, and you know, Matt does a fantastic job with running the matches, and there's lots of interactions. You can ask any question, you won't be judged, you won't be bantered off. It's a safe place to ask all those questions. And if you want to join us on the Instagram angling_for_you, where we share the photos and see what we're doing there, then that's also fantastic. And if you want to see any other videos, go on our playlist on YouTube at Angling For You. And if you could like, share and subscribe, join the Angling For You family, that would be superb. And until the next one, guys, thank you very much for watching. Tight lines.